All right, I'm going to explain a little bit for everybody the what solipsism means to me. I mean, this idea that I'm a solipsist is a total misunderstanding. And I spent a lot of years thinking and sorting this out before I ever knew what the word philosophy was supposed to relate to, really, before I realized what all these questions, a term to link questions together with. So I have years of thinking this question through, and maybe my own approach, though I think it's pretty straightforward. I'd be interested to see where people want to object. So I'm going to talk about what I mean by solipsistic epistemology. As far as I know, this is a term that I've coined, but like terms I coin, I think there's some natural meaning in it. But one thing, people say I'm confusing, don't they? So let's define these two terms just in case. I was talking to some people and I was surprised to find out they didn't know what solipsism was. Okay, solipsism is the philosophical idea that only one's own mind is sure to exist. The term comes from Latin solus, alone, and ipse, self. Solipsism is an epistemological or ontological position that knowledge of anything outside one's own specific mind is unjustified. The external world and other minds cannot be known and might not exist. In the history of philosophy, solipsism has served as a skeptical hypothesis. Okay, because, you could see somebody else reacting to the fire as if they're getting burned, but you can't feel that, even the heat, let alone the pain. Okay. Epistemology means, it's a study of knowledge. It's the branch of philosophy concerned with the nature and scope of knowledge, such as what is knowledge, how is knowledge acquired. So there. Alright, first of all, I am not a solipsist. My epistemology is solipsistic. I believe in limiting our epistemology to say that the only things we can actually know are those things that we ourselves directly know from the subjective point of view. Okay? If somebody tells you something and you think you know that, fine, you know it because you heard it still. Because you subjectively got that information. You certainly couldn't know it if you didn't get any information about it. The information all comes to you in a way that is unique to yourself, that you experience only for yourself, and you can't experience other people's subjectivity. So it's the epistemology that's solipsistic. I'm not a solipsist. In fact, like a lot of philosophy, my goal has been to overcome solipsism, but I'm a subjectivist, and I believe I know how we justify ourselves out of solipsism, and it can be done with the solipsistic epistemology. So I satisfy the problem, the dilemma that solipsism, arguments for solipsism present by having a solipsistic epistemology and then showing how within that epistemology you can have entirely functional for theories of agency, for example, or theories of the material world. You don't need to think the material world can be established as a particular kind of externality, a traditional material one, or a dream, or a matrix. That is not, you can have your epistemology, that is your knowledge, without violating the solipsist issues, right? And then you can still have beliefs about the material world. But the material world gets recognized as a theory that made from a subset of your full set of perceptions, all of which are ultimately, by definition, subjective. So let's talk about the solipsistic divide. This is me, and I'm doing okay. I'm myself, and I'm alive. But then you come into the picture. What about you? You look like me, and you kind of move around like me. If we take a picture of you and me, I can get an idea that we're the same. So are we the same? Are you the same inside? Well, let's just face it. I'm biased to think yes. I mean, before I even question it, I believe it. And then maybe later I go, hey, how do I know that? And that's what we're doing now. How do I know that? How can I establish some legitimacy to thinking that you have a subjective experience that I can never experience, you have it, right? I look at my arm and see my arm, and I look at your arm and I see your arm, and they are similar, right? Then they're both external to this subjectivity. And so I can see, hey, look, those are the same because I'm getting the same kinds of perceptions from them. But I can never get your subjective feelings. You know, I can't feel your pain and stuff like this. Well, I can think of generation, right? So how am I generated? I am created in a series of individuals, right? And again, of course, I think my mother has agency before I even consider my own agency, possibly. But mine is still, in reality, more primary. So I'm generated in this process, right? And indeed, I can see that all of these people are similar, can be visualized as though they weren't my ancestors and were contemporaries. And take that set and look at this other fellow and notice that, just like looking at my arm, if I look at his generation, it looks just the same as mine. And furthermore, if I go back far enough, I can get to a common ancestor. And I arrive back at this individual, which might as well be me. So all humans are connected in this way. Our generation, is sensible in a series. Why would I be the one that stood out? So it's as logical as anything else to assume that the parents and so on had the agency. Then you have the similarities, and ultimately we discover with genetics, and also to a certain degree we had figured it out before, that we're all related. Now, the thing about this description is that everything I've just described that allows me with a solipsistic epistemology to construct a bridge to the concept that, of course, other people probably have the same subjective experience, same, unique, like a fingerprint, but similar, like a fingerprint, is that these are the same connections that connect us to everything else in the tree of life.
How am I generated? I am created in a series of individuals, right? And again, of course, I think my mother has agency before even consider my own agency possibly. The mind is still in reality more primary. So I'm generated in this process, right? And indeed, I can see that all of these people are similar in individualized as they were my ancestors and contemporaries.